This episode of Fern and Friends is presented in partnership with Hey Design Guy and Dominion Designs and Media. Hey friends, we're back for part 2 of our conversation with Scotty O on the Fern and Friends podcast. He's diving into how he uses ChatGPT as an accelerator to his thinking and the delivery of projects, beyond just his remodeling business, but also with his tech consulting work. He needs no introduction. So we're going to jump right in. So, Scott, thank you for coming back for the second part of this conversation with Fern and Friends. You know, when we last left it off, you were talking about how you were leveraging ChatGPT for the work that you were doing for SGO renovations. And now you're doing some consulting work with businesses in Florida and Michigan. And talk to us how the technology of AI is helping you in the work you're doing for a major organization in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, a complete pivot shift back into, we'll say, corporate America consulting. Um, I've had a couple interesting opportunities in the manufacturing space, which was a space that I wasn't 100% focused on during my career. Even though working at Pepsi for a long time, I was in a manufacturing facility. I really wasn't dealing with manufacturing. But they needed experts to come in and help them digitally transform how their facilities run. How do they make parts? How they produce parts, all the way from the materials they get through a finished good. And I really conceptually understood the, start to finish, but from a manufacturing standpoint, not really familiar. Um, so being, brought into some of these opportunities, I use ChatGPT one to educate me. Like, hey, I'm kind of walking into this role. I understand what they're doing, but could you help me with some of the buzzwords,
Right.
some of the industry lingo? So ChatGPT helped educate me in that regards of how does a manufacturing facility run? What type of software makes it run? After reading that, my I felt much more comfortable that hey, I really do know what manufacturing is all about.
God, we no
Um,
time out, time out. So I'm not letting him slide by. We did deployments in manufacturing plants for years. So I think you underplay how much you really did know. You do know about supply chain and manufacturing, even though you weren't running a plant line, but we were in that space for years.
yeah, and you know what, ChatGPT helped me with that as well because we Fern and I have been doing this so long that the word SaaS platforms and cloud, they didn't exist when we started.
No, they sure didn't. They sure didn't.
And however, mainframes existed, and if you think of that, it's this full circle that was the original cloud. But um, well, what I realized is that I was working with all of these enterprise resource planning software tools before they were considered SAPs and tools that did everything. So ChatGPT helped remind me that you do know what you're talking about. They just call it something different now than what you're used to. So that was a huge confidence boost. And once I actually walked into the opportunities and saw what they're trying to do, where they need to get to, I just kind of put on my process hat and said, they're trying to get from A to Z, and I'm going to help them do that. And in this particular case, with certain software, you know, uh, software tools and packages. And so I started using ChatGPT not only to educate me on, hey, get me kind of back up to speed. How do I do things today with these new software tools? And I know that I can learn give me 24 hours with a software package and I'll figure it out. Um, but as I had to work through the process of understanding, hey, where are they at today? What do they need to get to? And what are all of the attributes that fit in there? Started using ChatGPT to help me build custom, whether it was a custom set of tools in Google Sheets, to do inventory and transaction flows and really sophisticated things. ChatGPT was helping me actually build the architecture. I would tell it what I need to do and what I discovered, and it would help automate it. Now, these are formulas and queries that maybe over time I could figure out how to write, by doing a lot of research. ChatGPT could just say, upload your structure and I'll give you the formula that
Yeah.
fits.
And you have it in seconds.
Seconds.
Right.
And, I felt, at first you're like, wow, like I feel a little guilty. But then I'm like, you know what? Instead of spending a day trying to figure out how to write a query,
Right.
I can actually do a lot more work that actually is going to benefit the customer. And I started really just diving into ChatGPT to be that, in this case, it was my technical coach throughout the day. Um, because I knew what I needed, I knew what I wanted, and I knew the outcome. I just didn't know all of the code, how to get
Mechanics,
there.
the code mechanics behind it.
Yeah.
So you've gone from essentially using it kind of let me figure out my resume to hey, let me operationalize and run my business to now you're my tech coach because I know the process, I know it has to get done, but refine me and refresh me on some manufacturing lingo and the tools that are relevant today, and then give me some accelerators, whether it be Notion, AI, or other tools with Google Sheets. How can we all put those together to be effective? So it feels like, I don't know, I keep calling this podcast the mashup, 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 mashup. You did a mashup
Mm.
as well to make sure that as you're providing value in a consulting capacity back to a client, you have AI at the forefront and making sure how you do business.
Yeah, and it's interesting. All the job interviews I had gone through, everyone asked, so, what's your enterprise AI experience? How many companies have you stood up AI and customized? And I said, well, how many people out there have actually done
Done
that at
that.
this
Yeah.
point? I said, to me, it's another software package, right? It's another set of technology.
Right.
And, so to set it up and to get it configured for a company, to me, that's probably more of the easy part is understanding what are the benefits of actually a company using this. Um, and by me being we'll say an end user and using it my own way, it would completely help if I went into a company and they said, "Hey, Scott, we want to implement AI, enterprise within our four walls." I would have such a better understanding of how I use it and how they would use it. And um, so what started off as a novelty is now kind of my right hand person every day, just to help accelerate what I'm trying to do. And that's really it. Not trying to cheat the system or portray something that I'm not. I'm, at the end of the day, it's my solution that's coming to life. It's just coming to life with, some
With an AI, with
accelerators.
an AI enhancer.
I mean, and I love it. I've actually gotten to the point where in ChatGPT, my chats have become so long that the latency has been ridiculous to where, so I tell it, hey, I think I've taken this chat to a limit, and it says, yes, let me provide a summary for you and open up a new chat and paste this. So the new chat now has
Take
the
the
has the
summary.
background.
I love it, love it, love it. We're going
Yeah.
to park it there and we're going to say thank you for imparting how you've been using ChatGPT, Notion, Google Sheets as a mashup for the consulting work that you're providing back of value because it's not only the tools, it's your knowledge, right? And your
Mm,
insights that are bringing that all to life. So, Scotty O, you know
yeah.
I love you and I will see you in
Yeah.
May.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Wow, Fern, I'm really glad we had this time to finish off this conversation. I loved hearing how Scott really leaned into ChatGPT to get educated, but then expedited his technology delivery for a manufacturing company. Here is what really stood out to me in this second part of Scott's journey: how his relationship with AI continued to evolve. First, AI became his learning bridge. When he stepped into consulting opportunities in manufacturing, it wasn't a field he'd been deeply focused on before. But instead of feeling out of place, he used AI to quickly understand the terminology, the software ecosystems, and how modern manufacturing facilities actually run. In a way, it helped translate decades of experience into the language of today's technology world. Second, AI became a technical co-pilot. Scott already understood the processes his clients needed, how to move from where they are today to where they want to be. What he didn't necessarily want to spend hours doing was writing complex queries and formulas. So he used AI to generate the architecture behind things like inventory tracking and transaction flows in Google Sheets. The thinking remained his. AI simply handled the mechanics much faster. And third, AI shifted from novelty to daily partner. What started as curiosity has now become something he relies on every day. Not to replace his expertise, but to accelerate it. As Scott put it, the solution is still his. AI just helps bring it to life faster. And I think that's the real theme of this conversation. AI isn't the expert in the room, but in the right hands, it becomes a remarkably powerful assistant.
Perfect. I appreciate that recap, Sophie. And thank you again, Scotty-O, for being part of the Fern and Friends podcast mashup. I really enjoyed our chat, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and the family this summer. And thanks to everyone for listening. Remember, you can join the conversation at Fern and Friends on all social media platforms.